Okay, welcome for everybody to join our today's webinar. The topic of the Greater Bay Area opportunities for innovation and technology companies. My name is Lasse Liukkonen, and I'm the director in the Finnish Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, and also the chairman of the Finnish Business Council in Guangdong. I also run my own consulting company, which has established about 50 companies in the Greater Bay Area during the past 10 years. So this is very familiar place for me, the area between Hong Kong and Guangzhou. So I'm very happy and very excited to have this webinar today about this particular topic. It's very important topic for companies in Hong Kong and in Guangdong, and also for companies which are looking for new market areas. In the chambers in Hong Kong and Guangdong, we are encouraging companies to do more cross-border business and to see what kind of opportunities are available. And today we have two esteemed gentlemen telling us more about those opportunities and what kind of support there is available. Mr. Stephen Phillips is the Director General of Investment Promotion at Invest Hong Kong, the government department responsible for attracting and facilitating foreign direct investment in Hong Kong. He has lived and worked in Hong Kong already in 1989 and for many, many years in many different very important and exciting positions in companies and also different kind of organizations. Then we have Mr. Andy Wong, who is the head of innovation and technology at Invest Hong Kong. He leads a team of technology specialists with major focus on attracting and facilitating overseas investments in Hong Kong for setting up and expanding their operation in the form of sales, marketing, regional headquarters, and expanding an innovation center and so forth. He has also long experience in many different kind of areas, from like a global 500 corporates to different kind of non-profit organization and so forth. Very good educational background. So these gentlemen are absolutely the best people to describe what is available in the Greater Bay Area. And I'm very happy that we got all these people here today to present about these topics. And I'm also very happy that we got a good participation from you, the people who are listening in your offices and at your homes. This webinar will be recorded, so just for your information. And I want you that you will listen very carefully, that you will prepare some questions, because we have reserved some time after the two gentlemen to present some questions and to have some discussions about the topics discussed today. This time, especially 2020, has been very difficult and strange year for everybody. But this is not like a reason to stop doing business, quite the opposite. We need to look for new opportunities and be very active what to do next. And we cannot just wait for the better future. We must prepare now for the next year and the next decade. And the environment is changing constantly, and so we must also. So let's see and hear what is available for us in the Greater Bay Area. And I thank you, Mr. Stephen Phillips. The floor is yours.
Well, Lasse, thank you very much indeed for that very kind introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. It really is a great pleasure to be able to share some thoughts with you this afternoon. As Lasse said, I'm joined by Andy, who's going to focus on the innovation and technology opportunities that we see. We also have another colleague who covers Finland for us. Mats is also on the line, and for particularly those of you based in Europe, Mats and his colleagues would be really happy to have a further conversation with you at your convenience. Lasse, I think, has got a phenomenal track record actually in the GBA from what he just said. So I'm not too sure whether Andy and I are going to live up to his sort of selling of us, but we'll do our best. As I engage with companies all around the world, what I would say is this concept of the Greater Bay Area is really capturing the imagination of almost every single company that I talk to. And in my personal view, I think the Greater Bay Area has got the most potential on a global scale in terms of being a major economic development initiative. You could make some parallels actually with the European projects. When you look at what has happened in Europe in terms of the free movement of people, goods, services and capital, there is quite a close analogy with what is going to happen within the Greater Bay Area. What is unique about GBA is it's all part of China, but we actually have 3 different legal systems and 3 different systems in many respects. You've got the Special Administrative Region of Hong Kong, the same for Macau, and then 9 cities in Guangdong. And so some of those similar issues in terms of how we ease the movement of people, goods, services and capital within this region is absolutely essential to live up to this ambition to see the Greater Bay Area to become this leading innovation and financial services cluster on a global scale. I hear all of the interests from the market. I also hear quite frank feedback that yes, we buy the big picture narrative, we understand the concept, but what we really want to know is the detail. How is it really going to be implemented? What does it mean in the particular sector that a company is working in? And the reality is that much of that detail is going to come in the months and years to come. And it won't be a big bang approach. It will be drip, 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 with further sort of removal of some of those barriers, enhanced standardization, regulatory alignment, and all of those practical issues. We really appreciate that makes it very difficult for businesses to really get a full grasp of what's going on within the Greater Bay Area. So what we're going to be doing at Invest Hong Kong is really working hard to convert the big picture plans and strategies that exist, published at a national level, published by each of the cities, some published by Guangdong, many of them only in Chinese, and turn that big picture language into language that all of us as business people can understand. So we'll try and cut away the big picture narrative, but zoom in on what really is the opportunity for business and what is making it different to how it is, let's say, today. To do this, we'll be having a dedicated Greater Bay Area team at Invest Hong Kong in the not too distant future. We will be developing a whole range of content, which will be on our website along the lines that I've just described. And we're also going to work very closely with our counterparts in the other 10 cities that comprise GBA to really collaborate to make things easier for business. And where I would like to see us get in the not too distant future is the ability to have a conversation with a company, let's say in Helsinki, to say, come and do 1, 2, 3 in Hong Kong. And that could be have your strategy team, your regional management team, and R&D function. But for your manufacturing, let's say it's in biotech, Zhongshan is the right place. So put a manufacturing facility and possibly a sales team for the mainland markets in Zhongshan, and do that as one coherent proposition to try and ease the way forward for companies. So at the highest level, that's what our ambitions are. What we would love to hear on an ongoing basis from all of you is any questions that you have where you can't get an answer to it. So we can try and respond by working around the different systems to get the answers to the questions that you really want answered. Before I pass on to Andy, I'm going to cover off some of the bigger picture things that we're seeing that aren't directly related to innovation and technology, but hopefully will give you a feel for the extent of the ambition within the Greater Bay Area. So beyond innovation and technology, there's a number of facilitation measures that I don't think Andy will touch on. So easing the use of mobile electronic payments between the different jurisdictions. As many of you may know, actually China is at the leading edge actually of electronic payments. Cash is actually really difficult to use on the mainland, but we don't have harmonization of the systems between Hong Kong, Macau, and the mainland yet. So that's something that's going to be happening. Financial services is a big part of the Greater Bay Area concept, and there will be more and more opportunities to service clients across the different jurisdictions. And that includes wealth management, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. Lots of plans and practical measures to facilitate the movement of people, essential obviously to make business work, and that will include for non-Chinese residents. Some practical issues at the moment, for instance, buying high-speed rail tickets on the mainland for a non-Chinese is quite difficult in many ways, but finding ways to recognise either a Hong Kong ID card, which isn't purely in Chinese, or maybe a foreign passport, to just ease that process. On the life sciences side, one of the attractions for Guangdong is actually Hong Kong's healthcare system. And so there will be an ability for Hong Kong registered institutions to take their expertise into GBA, and in the process actually use drugs that are registered only in Hong Kong but not the mainland, and similarly also medical devices. At the bottom of this slide, some other practical issues: the ability to purchase property, more or less pari passu with local residents in GBA, particularly for families, the ability to educate children within the GBA on an equal basis again with local residents, and a very practical issue around bank accounts and making that work. It's an issue that we hear as quite a major impediment actually. I mentioned wealth management as a major initiative. I won't go into the detail here now, but if anybody would like to talk about it, we'd be very happy to go into much more detail. But essentially what it foresees is the flow of wealth management products and services and the related capital flows, both on a northbound basis from Hong Kong into Guangdong, and a southbound basis from Guangdong into Hong Kong. This is really important for Hong Kong financial services because Hong Kong has got a population of 7.3 million people. Greater Bay Area in total has got 10 times that population, and they have the highest GDP per capita within China. So the ability to service these increasingly affluent people is really, really important to the asset managers right here in Hong Kong. The next slide has got a little bit more detail on the Wealth Management Connect. I won't go into it, but we can either answer questions, or if you'd like to talk to our financial services specialists, they can take you through it in much more detail. I mentioned cross-border bank accounts being an issue. Quite a lot of progress being made here. 3 different types of bank account tailored for different needs of the individuals. So light at the end of the tunnel on that. And I know from some of my colleagues that in fact they've successfully opened these pan-GBA bank accounts that really has made their own movement back and forth much easier. On the insurance front, again on the financial services side, we're expecting some significant policy announcements soon. And this will include allowing Hong Kong insurers to have service centres in Shenzhen, and also another mainland Chinese city yet to be specified. But also, again, some sort of Insurance Connect program in the very near future. And just on that note, I'd mentioned that there will be a meeting, I believe, in Beijing next week of what's known as the leading group for the Greater Bay Area, which probably will result in a whole raft of new policy announcements. So that's also on the cards. Another significant opportunity we see, again related to wealth management, is around family offices. This goes to the heart of the vibrancy of the economy within the Greater Bay Area. The fact that there have been some very successful entrepreneurs who now are looking to deploy their wealth, not only in the mainland, but outside the mainland. So we see a big opportunity for lawyers, accountants, and financial services professionals to serve a booming family office landscape. I mentioned that there are so many different resources, so many different plans. Here are probably 3 key resources that you might want to take a look at. There's a dedicated website in Hong Kong, which is both in Chinese and English. It is relatively high level. There's also Facebook and Instagram pages. And there's also a formal Greater Bay Area website, which tends to give the bigger policy background. But just to give you a flavour of the complexity, if you're trying to navigate how many different plans and strategies there are, there's a whole raft of things at the national level. So the State Council have done things, the Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Commerce, the main organs in financial services, even the China Met Office, NDRC, which is a very, very influential ministry that really drives a lot of the planning across China. Still quite a planned economy. And on the legal side, the Supreme People's Court. Then there's a whole load of work done by Guangdong and Shenzhen, various action plans, strategies around youth, strategies around tourism, strategies around elderly healthcare services. Then a whole range of thematic plans on the ecology, higher education, water safety, modern industrial systems, intercity railway development plans, and the list goes on and on. So it highlights the point that I made at the beginning, that there's so many bits of information here. And at Invest Hong Kong, we recognise that for business people, this is almost impossible to navigate. And what we will try to do in earnest is pull out of all of this information the stuff that is relevant to you guys as we move forward. Lastly, I'll leave you with my contact details. Please do feel free to get in touch with me at any time. You can find me on LinkedIn or on WeChat, or drop me an email as well. But once again, thank you very much. Lasse, I don't know, do you want to pause here in case there are questions, or shall I pass straight on to Andy?
Oh, sorry. Maybe you just pass the Andy, and
Okay.
we'll take the questions after the Andy's presentation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for those people in the Nordic. So let me introduce myself. I am Andy Wong from I'm the head of innovation and technology from Invest Hong Kong. So today I'm very pleased to have the chance to talk about the Greater Bay Area. So in my part, it will cover basically two parts. One is about the GBA. So why is GBA and what's in the GBA? We will have a deep dive of GBA. And then the next one is talking about the innovation and technology development in Hong Kong. So for the GBA, I think in 2019, February 18, so there's an outline development plan for the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau GBA has been issued. I think, first of all, we look at what is the objective for the GBA. I think the idea is that to make the synergy, how can we leverage the synergy between different cities in the Guangdong province, and also combining Hong Kong and Macau. So leveraging the sound industrial foundation, the manufacturing powerhouse in those cities in Guangdong area. And then we have infrastructure connecting those different cities together, so that it will enable the division of what we call division of labor. People can move around easily within the city, and then improving the quality of living. And also we can have a more efficient flow of talent, goods, and information. And then by using Hong Kong as international market, so we can promote how can we help the company to move to go global through Hong Kong as a platform. So that is the objective behind the Greater Bay Area. And then what is the strategic intent? So we can see that four major intent for this Greater Bay Area. The first one is about the innovation. So I think nowadays everything is talking about the innovation. How can we improve the value of a product, of a process, right? So innovation is the future, no doubt. And then for the commerce, which is leveraging the Bay Area, how can we make use of the manufacturing, also the logistic powerhouse for this Bay Area? And then the third one is about the international competitiveness. So Hong Kong definitely is a good platform using the financial center and also the trade center of Hong Kong to make the whole area become internationalized. And then the last one is about the livability. So how can we improve the quality of living? Hong Kong is very small, so how can we move the people from Hong Kong to the much bigger place to have a better living style? So we talk about the smart city living. Then the next one is about the GBA. So GBA is, as Stephen mentioned, is a 9 cities in Guangdong province, plus the 2 cities. One is the Hong Kong and Macau, so that we have 3 different jurisdictions, right, in this area. And then for the table is a very detailed about the hard factual data for that 9 plus 2 cities in this area. So Hong Kong and Macau definitely will be the highest GDP per capita in this 11 cities. And then followed by Shenzhen and Guangzhou, and also Zhuhai. Zhuhai is next door to Macau, which is becoming a very good place for travel to visit, right? And then in terms of the area land, you can see that the boundary, like Huizhou, Shaoqing, and also Jiangmen, which have a much bigger land area for the manufacturing to move outside the core, the essential part, to make use of the land availability in those areas. So if we look at the GDP as a whole, so we're talking about $1.7 trillion as whole for the GDP lump sum. That represent about 11% of the China total. So you can see that given the population of 70-something million population, but in terms of the out of the 1.3 billion population in China, and then the highest GDP per capita is in the Guangdong area, which is about 11% of China total. If you look at so if we look at the GBA compared to other major country in the world, US definitely ranked at the top, and then followed by China, Japan, and Germany. So GBA as a whole is right now is sitting around in the 11th place, right? So it's under following the Canada but above the Russia, which is similar even higher than Spain and Australia. But this is current snapshot about the GBA. But if we talk about 10 years later, 9 years later in 2030, then the GDP for GBA will go up to 4.6 trillion by projection, which means that that will be a line just follow after the Japan as is today. Of course, Japan will keep on going. But if we taking it as a snapshot, but look at 10 years later, then the size of the GBA, given the current momentum, it can reach out to the same size as Japan in the future. As you can see, the whole kind of the potential about the GBA in here. We talk about different bays. So Greater Bay Area is one, and then we have San Francisco Bay Area, New York Metropolitan Area, and also Tokyo Bay Area. And then you can see the comparison about the land size, the population, and then the cargo, and also the port container is leading among those Bay Area. So I think it's more important to look at the bottom, to look at what are the key contributors for those key Bay Area. You can see San Francisco is a technology, New York is financial, Tokyo is more industrial. But how the Greater Bay Area is unique. We have a financial center, we have the innovation center, and also we have the manufacturing base. So we want to combine everything together into one single Greater Bay Area. If we look at the 9+2, so you can have different cities have their different kind of role. So it highlight in different color, like Guangdong, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Macau. It's become the core. Hong Kong, Macau. Hong Kong is the financial. Shenzhen is innovation, and then Guangzhou is the political cultural center of this whole Greater Bay Area. But the blue color, Dongguan and Foshan and also Zhongshan, they are the core manufacturing center. So I think you can easily to find a lot of factory over in this area. And then one of the mobile phone can be easily manufactured in the Guangdong, this kind of area. So worldwide, this is the powerhouse. And if we want to move, we can move outside using the nearby city in the Greater Bay Area for expansion. And then this is again, it's more like a dimension in this different color to show the synergy around different areas. So again, it's the core is Shenzhen, Dongguan, and Guangzhou, Foshan, and it's become a high-tech spearhead and also manufacturing scale, a technology powerhouse, manufacturing powerhouse. And Shenzhen and Zhongshan, because Shenzhen is become very, very international, very innovation. So the land is become a scarce resources right now. So the factory need to move from Shenzhen to a nearby city, which is across the river to Zhongshan. And Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau, in addition, Hong Kong as an international center, but also combining Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau, it become a tourist and retail place in this case. We're talking all about this kind of the development, but one thing is very important is the connectivity. How can we link up all those cities together? So that's the plan under the GBA. So as you can see in this diagram, so starting from the bottom, which is the Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau bridge, which is together with the express railway link. So in 2018, we have the bridge, we have the railway, so we can travel from Hong Kong through the bridge by the car to Zhuhai and Macau, and then from Zhuhai, Macau, and accessing to the Greater Bay Area through by car. But also you can travel by railway, so it can shorten the distance from Hong Kong to Guangzhou, which is less than 50 minutes. And then from the Guangdong, you can through the national expressway to different city in China. And then this is the land road. And then you can see different bridge within the riverside. So you can see the Shenzhen, Zhongshan bridge and also whatever. So the whole idea is that we have to infrastructure to connect the people, connect the goods, and also connect the information flow. And you can see that as an indicative kind of idea. So with those GBA, you can have a whole ecosystem. So you can do the prototype, particularly in the electronic or in the industrial area, to make the prototype, which is faster, cheaper in the Greater Bay Area. And then once you have the prototype, you can scale the manufacturing, which you can use so many the manufacturer factory in China, particularly with the labors coming from different places all over in China to the Greater Bay Area for manufacturing the product. And then you can have the excellent logistic port so that you can ship it to worldwide. So that's the beauty about the Greater Bay Area. And as Stephen mentioned, we have different facilitation measures. It's not a one goal for everything, but we will step by step. So like for example, in 2019 March, and then we have different policy measures. The whole idea is to how can we enable the flow of the goods, the people, and also the talent around this Greater Bay Area. And then in 2019, November, and then we have another set of facilitation measures. So starting from the left-hand side, which is doing with how can we enable the work easier to work, to study and reside. So for example, you can easier to buy a house, you can have an electronic payment, as Stephen mentioned before, how to open a bank account, and then the education and the wealth management, and also the travel between the two different places. And also the drugs registered in Hong Kong can be used by the recognized institution in Shenzhen, so that people who used to be living in Hong Kong, now they reside in China, Shenzhen, can still have the same kind of drugs that they can buy in Shenzhen. And then the middle part is about the professional, so that if you're a professional, how can you move from Hong Kong to Greater Bay Area, which we still recognize your professionalism. So there are a lot of kind of the policy which allows you to do that. And then the last bit is about the innovation. So we have the Lok Ma Chau loop. So Hong Kong have a science park, but in addition to the science park, the government is planning to have the Lok Ma Chau, and then the planning and also the construction is already underway to do it. And also we have transferred the biosample. How can we make use of the simplify the custom clearance for the biosample moving from China to Hong Kong, and also the genetic resources for the institute, for the research and university study to make it more easier. And so for the GBA, so the world is changing, right? So the manufacturing, we need to be more customized rather than mass production. And then we need to make it more just in time, more agile, and more innovative. So this is the requirement for the next generation of product development or supply chain, or what we call reindustrialization. So in order to enable that, you need to look at the value chain. So we look from the product design to the manufacturing, to warehouse, to wholesale and retail. So definitely by combining Hong Kong, Guangdong, Shenzhen all together, that can fulfill every single gap from the production, from the design all the way to the retail. And not just this, because of the technology is changing, that's why you have the underneath platform. You need the cloud computing, so you can upload the data from somewhere up to the cloud. So there's no more boundary to restrict the flow for the information from Hong Kong to Greater Bay Area. So you need to, that's why the cloud computing is one of the enabling factor to enable the use of Greater Bay Area for production. And also we have the 5G, we have the IoT, the sensor, so we can control every single piece of good move from one place to the other place. So the underlying enabling technology, which is already developed in China and as well as in Hong Kong. So that's a very crucial factor to enable the overall industrialization in the Greater Bay Area. Next, I'm going to talk about Hong Kong now. So we switch the gear from the GBA area to the Hong Kong. This is a very generic slide. So accessibility, Hong Kong in the middle of center of Asia. So as I mentioned, we use of the bridge, and also we have the express railway. We can access to China, to Asia quite easily. Simple tax, very simple and no tax. And then Capital One fundraising through the Hong Kong Stock Exchange platform. We have the leading IP system, including the registration of the IP, protection of IP, and also how to do the IP asset management using Hong Kong, the low tax rate for the IP asset management, and then the Greater Bay Area, and also various unique startup system. This slide is talk about what are the building blocks to support the innovation and technology. I think this slide is better to explain how can we support the innovation and technology in terms of what are the key building blocks. So we start from the R&D facility. So you need the facility to enable startup, because startup usually have lack of resources. So we need to have a place which with the global kind of equipment standard to support their development, R&D research. So Science Park, Productivity Council, Cyberport, S3, all those research institutions is already in place in Hong Kong to support the startup to develop their program. Not just the hardware facility, but also the incubation program, the people, the soft skill to teach the people how can they develop their product and then commercialize the product. And then the next one is about the business friendliness. So as I mentioned before, the unique factor about the Hong Kong is a low tax, a vibrant startup ecosystem, and also we have the common law. So both English and Cantonese, Chinese is common in Hong Kong. So that's important for a foreign company who want to access to China, or for a China company using Hong Kong to go global. Then this common law system and also the language is advantage for helping both sides to enter each other's market, and the IPO market as well. And then the talent. So talk about the talent. We have 7, 8 universities, but 5 of them are ranked the top 100 globally. So including top-notch universities like the Hong Kong University, Science Park, Hong Kong Science and Technology University, and also Chinese University. They are very famous for innovation, basic research, which is very different because we are talking about basic research. It's not applied research. So those are the people with the PhD and master level. They can do the basic research and then help generate the innovation. And then the funding policies, which is the government. I have a slide to talk about the funding, and then it covers the matching fund, R&D matching fund, and then the tax rebate, etc., to promote the enterprise to spend money on the innovation and R&D research. And then the product launch, we have the different government scheme to allow people to commercialize it. We have a platform to and also innovation procurement policy by the government. So the government not just look at the money, lower price for procurement, but also look at the technology element in that project. So if you have a high-tech element in there, then it's a pro-innovation kind of procurement policy means. And then last is the GBA sourcing center mentioned earlier. It's the powerhouse manufacturing rapid prototype. And Science Park have the robotic microelectronics R&D center, and then the precision manufacturing center, which is more dedicated for advanced manufacturing. And then and also the building up in the Zhangguanou area is the advanced manufacturing center. So all those are in place, ready to support the innovation development. We switch gear from the more the electronic and production to a more biomedical, because biomedical is now getting more and more important because of the health issue. And in this case, we have what we call complete value chain. So starting from the very supportive government policy again, and also we have the talent pool. And one thing is different from the robot we saw before is that we have a very efficient healthcare system. And also the clinical trial network. And as you can see, there's many international global pharmaceutical companies have already established in Hong Kong for the last 20, 30 years as a regional hub in Asia. And the facility center, Science Park, and also the IPO funding, because that funding, the IPO, the last bit is very important, is also important because we are very flexible in the stock market. We adopt what we call Chapter 18A, which is the unique listing rules for biomedical, because biomedical is a long journey. Because if you wait until the company can make profit and then allow them to listing, that may not work for the biomedical industry. So that's why for the biomedical company, if you are already past the clinical trial at certain phase, then even though the revenue is not up to the standard, it's still allowed to consider for the listing in Hong Kong. So that's why in the last leg, we ranked number 2 worldwide in terms of biomedical funding globally after New York. Again, the Science Park offers different facility for the biomedical training. And now I want to talk about the policy, right? So government is really supported the innovations. That's why you can see the different phase of during the journey, starting from the startup phase, right? The Science Park have different incubation program, and also the venture fund to support the innovation. And then the middle part is a research and development. So the 2 key things is like the enterprise support scheme, which is like a matching fund. If the enterprise want to do a R&D project, they put $1, and then the government will put $1. It's like a matching for the investment. So encourage people to spend more money on the R&D. The partnership research program is for the enterprise to join the research with the university institution. And again, is more or less like the matching fund. And then the tax reduction, which is for the 2 million, you can have claim up to 3 times of the 2 million, which is 6 million of the tax deduction bracket. And then more than 2 million will be 2 times of that. And then cash rebate and also talent research hub as well. So there's quite a lot of policy being launched by the government, very clear, very transparent kind of procedure to allow companies to do the R&D. And then the adoption, like the smart lab and also the EMS portal, which is the government will roll out the project, which allow people to bid for the project using the technologies. And then the last is talk about the innovation technology. So to summarize, Hong Kong allowed the GBA to go global, as well as for the global company to use Hong Kong to go to GBA, leveraging the 4 key elements here. Government policy, as I mentioned before, particularly with the facility measurement launched by the central government to encourage the collaboration within the GBA city. And then the talent and facility, the university, the facility available in Science Park and also other research institutions, the access to capital, the IPO, and then the VCPE fund in Hong Kong, and also the business environment, which is a very important part, the low tax and also the IP protection, and as well as the logistic hub and the transparent law. So just closing, Invest Hong Kong, my role is to help company to come to Hong Kong to set up the office. From the planning stage, whatever you need the information, we will provide the information to help you understand more about Hong Kong, the market, the policy, and the tax, and also the employment scheme, whatever. And then when you set up, then we help you to apply for the visa, opening the bank account, funding, etc. And then the launch, when you launch, we do the marketing promotion for you and then expansion. Okay, so that's pretty up to summarize my talk about the INT in a snapshot. Thank you.
I'm very conscious that between Andy and I, we've covered a massive waterfront and we've sort of glossed over it. So just reiterate that either Andy, I, or Matt would be really happy to have sort of more one-on-one discussions to drill down into any areas relevant to each of you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the lots of information, and that's like everything that Hong Kong and Guangdong and the Greater Bay Area has to offer, and it's all true. And I want to remind everybody who are like listening and considering if they're to do business or come to see what's around, is that you can get help very easily. You can get help from the Invest Hong Kong, or you can get help from a Finnish company, and you can get help from Team Finland, which includes the consulate, the Chamber of Commerce, business councils, and so forth. And you don't need to know anything. Greater Bay Area is the easiest place to do business in China. It won't get any easier than that. And I always, in my company's marketing, I use a similar map as you showed me earlier about the cities, the GDPs of different cities, the population, and so on. And I just tell them that look at this amount of money and market, because that's what we are, with the Finnish companies, are lacking. We have good inventions and ideas and business models, but what we don't have is market and money, and that's available in Greater Bay Area. I'm hearing lots of noises. I hope that everybody can still hear me. But yeah, very good topics. And also what is important is not only the business side, but also like the family issues when like foreigners are coming to Hong Kong and Greater Bay Area. School is a big issue, and I'm happy to hear there are like advances happening nowadays. And I also want to mention that Shenzhen is next to Hong Kong, but also Guangzhou is like culturally closer to Hong Kong than Shenzhen and Dongguan, which are between that area. So Guangzhou, the capital of Guangdong province, is a very important and good place to position yourself as well. I live in Guangzhou, and it's very easy to commute even in Hong Kong. It's like 45 minutes by bullet train, and it's very convenient traveling, apart from buying ticket in mainland China side, which I hope will get a bit easier. But now I would invite people to ask any questions from you two gentlemen by chat, or you can, I guess, raise your hand and somebody will give you a microphone.
You need to be looking at something because they might be trying to ask a question. You need to have everybody showing. People might put in
Okay, we have a question from Mika Karilahti. Hi, can you tell us more about the IPO process and requirements, please?
Can I clarify, is the question on biotech side or generally about IPOs? There's normal listing. We've got the biotech listing where there's certain requirements and relaxed requirements. And then we've also actually got some further listing rules relevant to tech companies where you can have dual class shares. Oh, on biotech. Okay. Yes. So the substance of the new biotech listing rule really is to allow pre-revenue biotechs to list. Obviously, classically, a company that's listing needs a track record of at least revenue generation, more often than not actually profitability. But recognizing the R&D cycle in biotech, that obviously you've got the big capital spend up front before you can commercialize, we have introduced these new listing regimes. There are certain thresholds really in terms of size of the company, but the substance of it is to allow pre-revenue listings. What we can do is share the detail of all of those regulations. We've got that information to hand.
Yes. So feel free to reach out to me. I will give you the detailed information about the listing rule for the biomedical, because the relevant chapter is called 18A. Basically, is that if you pass the clinical trial stage 1, then it's allowed you to consider to be for the listing. Because usually, if you move up to the stage, it's the last stage, which is very long way ago. So that's why it will be once you've been approved by the FDA for this clinical trial, then allowable to apply for the listing.
All right, thank you. And any more questions, please? This is a great chance to ask anything.
I just jump in here, Lasse, maybe jump in here and just saying that, as Andy said, you can contact him directly, but my name is Mats Skurlam and I'm the Nordic rep for Invest Hong Kong. So I'm based in Gothenburg, Sweden, but I'm covering Finland. We have a lot of attendees from Finland. I'm regularly in Finland. Unfortunately, I haven't been there since February for obvious reasons, but hopefully we're soon there. So please come back to me, drop me email, call me, whatever. Hopefully they will send out the presentation together with including my contact details. So you can contact Andy, who's head of innovation technology, or myself in all different questions, and we try to forward. And I will also mention that I'm running the Nordic team, but I also have a colleague, and I understand that we have also some attendees from Denmark and Norway listening here, and we have Gert Hovens, he's listening here also, and he's covering Denmark and Norway and Iceland. So we are close by, eager to help you. So please contact us, whatever question. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to ask you to explain a little bit more about differences, how Hong Kong government treats foreign invested companies in Hong Kong versus domestically invested companies in Hong Kong. As in mainland China, it's very different if the company is owned by Chinese people or companies, or foreign people or companies. Could you explain a little bit more about the situation in Hong Kong?
It's actually very simple. We treat all companies equally. So there are no differences in requirements between a locally Hong Kong invested company or a foreign company. Also, a little bit unusual compared to some other jurisdictions, there's no requirement to have a local director. So the directors can all be non-Hong Kong permanent residents, and you don't actually have to have anybody as a director resident in Hong Kong.
Yes, very good answer, which I was looking for. I very much appreciate the attitude in Hong Kong that everybody are equally treated, and especially like Invest Hong Kong, it's always a pleasure and very easy to talk with you guys. And again, I encourage everybody to do that. How about, could you like explain like how can foreign companies based in Hong Kong protect their interest from commercial disputes when doing business in China?
That's a very large topic, as you know, Lasse. I think that there's a whole range of obviously legal techniques that you can use, particularly around intellectual property, using Hong Kong's world-class intellectual property environment to try as best as you can to protect IP. More on the commercial side, what I would say is that you have got a phenomenal amount of expertise in Hong Kong within the legal profession and allied professional services, either consultants or the accountants, on what works well, what doesn't work well in terms of professional risk mitigation techniques. One relatively recent development as well is that if you do have a commercial dispute and you take it to the court in Hong Kong, there is now agreement that a Hong Kong judgment can be enforced on the mainland, which is quite a big step forward for international investors. Probably the transparency and the ways of the workings of the Hong Kong court system is much more familiar to international investors. As Andy said, the legal system in Hong Kong is based upon common law. So for those of you that do business in the UK or Australia or Canada, actually Hong Kong's legal system is very, very similar indeed to that, and hence the courts also operate in a very similar way.
Thank you. How about like, let's say a Finnish company will contact you and say that they have established a company in Hong Kong as a stepping stone to mainland China, which is the traditional way of entering China. Now there are more ways, but that's the traditional way, which still works, of course. So what kind of like a practical assistance you can provide to that kind of companies in Hong Kong?
Shall I pass that to Mats to begin with? Because the journey would typically start with Mats before engaging colleagues here in Hong Kong.
Yeah. Please contact us, and we can assist in open up doors. I mean, if companies would like to set up in Hong Kong, I mean, we can, how does it work, how to do it practically. We can, either we can guide it to, do it yourself by language homepages, the registration, or we can help you to give you a list of secretarial company who do actually the registrations. But then also if the investor would like to move to Hong Kong, we can help with office space, recruitment, visa help, international schools, etc., etc. So, and if we from the Nordic team can't help you, we always have the teams from the headquarters. We have different sector teams, and they will also assist you. Okay.
Maybe I can add in a little bit more detail in terms of entry either to Hong Kong or direct to the mainland, or whether you use a combination. It is perfectly possible to go direct to the mainland today. You can have a wholly owned company. What I would say is if your aspirations for Asia are not only China, but the rest of the region, that may not be the optimal way to approach the overall Asian market. Because inevitably a team on the ground on the mainland has more than enough to look at. So to get them to lift their eyes up at an opportunity outside the mainland is really practically quite difficult. From a structuring point of view, even if you need an operating business on the mainland, you may want to have a holding company structure in Hong Kong. And typically I wouldn't say it's particularly tax driven. But also from a very practical point of view, if you ever want to restructure, sell some of the shares or liquidate the mainland entity, it tends to be much easier to do that at the holding company structure than necessarily changing the legal entity on the mainland. So I would certainly take wide counsel on the best approach to that, because there's lots of different nuances. Ultimately, like anything, it comes back to what your overall corporate objectives are for the entirety of Asia.
Yeah, this is a very good point that there's not only the Greater Bay Area, but the rest of the Asia, which is a huge market, and it's definitely easier to do from Hong Kong than from the mainland China. Are there some like incentives tailor-made for technology companies entering the Greater Bay Area market? Like Finland is big in technology.
Yeah, well, Andy's slide, I don't know if we can pull up Andy's slide, that there's a whole range of technology-related funding schemes that are available in Hong Kong. There's a whole, so that they're outlined on this slide. I know it's very detailed indeed, but a lot of these ultimately will facilitate entry into the Greater Bay Area. But equally, our counterparts in Shenzhen, in Guangdong, in Macau, in Zhuhai, and so forth, they all have their own different funding schemes. There might be equity available, there might be debt support available. If the funding side is important to any of you, please get in touch with us and we can help you navigate particularly what's available in Hong Kong, but we can also point you in the direction of our counterparts in Shenzhen or in one of the other cities. So we put you in touch with the right people who can tell you what's available from them as well. As I said earlier on, ultimately, we want to be able to do that as one conversation instead of 2 or 3 separate conversations.
I think one thing to supplement, right? So the enterprise itself, like for example, we're dealing with the pharmaceutical company, so they will sometimes they would like to collaborate with the University in Hong Kong. So to first of all, they may not want to have the whole R&D team in Hong Kong, but they can outsource this research project to the university in Hong Kong. So and then get the funding, like this one is called Partnership Research Program. So this also available, it's a kind of one-to-one matching. So without putting too much resources in day one for do the R&D, you can have a partnership with some of the university in Hong Kong to do the research program. Or for some established company, they will apply for the enterprise support scheme, which is one-to-one matching. And then this is for the corporate to source the funding. But as well, you can have a benefit of the cash rebate scheme. So whatever money you put on, then 40% of your R&D expenditure is a rebate to you. So actually you come up from the pocket, say $10, $4, the government will subsidize it. So the actual out of pocket will much less than that one. And also the tax expenditure on the profit base. So add up together is the actual money put out from the pocket is not as much as you believe at the beginning.
Excellent.
There's also a further level of nuance here. Up until fairly recently, funding from the mainland could not cross the boundary into Hong Kong. but actually as part of the overall Greater Bay Area initiative. Funding certainly for the education sector going into basic R&D is now it's now possible to get mainland funding that comes direct into Hong Kong, and increasingly I think we'll see these cross-boundary flows as this sort of vision for Greater Bay Area is really realised.
All right.
It's dynamic.
And thank you, Andy, and thank you, Matt, in Sweden. I think our time is up and we must let people to go continue their days in Europe, and our day in China and Hong Kong is getting over soon as well. Thank you very much. And I hope we will have more of these kind of webinars and communication in future as well.
Lasse, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.